Hi guys, today I'm going to be discussing what it's like to grow up with dyscalculia. I first noticed that there was something wrong, I'd say in first grade, but in kindergarten I can remember the teacher trying to teach us how to count by 2s, 3s, and 4s, and it didn't make any sense to me. To me, it was just stupid, and I was like, you know what, I'm just going to count by 1s, 5s, and 10s, because that's easy. In first grade was when the dyscalculia really started to affect me negatively. I couldn't do the addition or the subtraction at all. I needed help from the teacher. She wouldn't help me. Didn't matter how long I raised my hand, she wouldn't come, she wouldn't help me. I couldn't add and subtract at all. I would cry and scream over math homework every single night. You know, I would sit in my mom's lap and we would just cry over this math homework that I couldn't do. Second grade was horrific for me. By third grade, you know, I was just like, you know what, I can't do math. I don't know why I can't do math, but it just doesn't make any sense. And the only thing that I could do was multiplication, but not because I understood it, because I had no idea why the answers were what they were, but I memorized everything up to the 12 times tables, all the answers. Didn't know why, but I memorized it. Fourth grade, I was, again, you know, every time I would have a math test, I would get like 50 or 60 something on the exams. Actually, in third grade, we had our first standardized test. I got 96th percentile on the reading comprehension and 56th percentile with math, which meant that I matched the kids in special ed with math and the kids in the gifted program with reading, but I wasn't allowed to be with the gifted kids because I couldn't do math and nobody was going to help me because it was just math according to everybody. You know, math doesn't matter except that you need it for life. So I got resource room for half a year maybe in second grade. And I trusted this woman who would pull me out for resource room, and I was learning. But then she stopped coming and I stopped learning. And I remember knowing which kids had trouble with reading and writing. They were getting resource room. They continued to get resource room through fourth grade, and it wasn't fair. And I just kept looking at these kids like they're going to grow up and be fine, and I'm not at all. So fifth grade was the start of middle school, and I actually had a really good math teacher. Like, she cared whether I learned or not. I remember halfway through the year, like, everything was just going way too fast, and I said something to my English teacher, and he asked if I wanted him to talk to her for me, if I wanted him to talk to her, and I said okay. And after that, she changed something about the way she was teaching so that I could learn too. And stuff wasn't going so fast anymore. One marking period, I even got an A in her class. I worked so hard, and she really cared whether I learned or not. So that was a big deal for me. And I would get on the honor roll. Despite math, I would get on the honor roll. And she would be at the honor roll ceremony, so that was wonderful. Sixth grade was like a blur because I had a math teacher who couldn't teach anybody, and everybody would fail her tests, and she would just... Guys, my camera cut out. I was talking about sixth grade. This teacher couldn't teach anyone. Everyone was failing, so she had to curve everyone's grades. And I knew within a couple of days that 50-something, that 60-something would be an 80. So I didn't have to worry. But then in 7th grade, I moved from a predominantly poor area in New York to a middle-class area in New Jersey. and the academics were insanely hard in comparison. I was struggling with everything, but math was impossible. I thought somebody had stuck me in Harvard. I had an awful math teacher. Like, one day, we were getting report cards. And she was going to tell us our grades before the report cards came out. And she was about to start the grades, and I was dreading it because I couldn't do the math, especially in that middle classroom. And the bell rang, so I was relieved. I was about to leave. She stopped me, and she was like, "Bianca, you're a nice girl, but..." And then she goes, "D+. You don't do that to a child. You just don't." And then another child, she screamed at them for having ADHD and being very talkative in class. Like, everybody was terrified. She screamed at the top of her lungs. So, and made the boy cry. It was awful. And then 8th grade, still couldn't do the math. 9th grade, high school, I was put into a math class where it was like 5th grade math, but they let us use a calculator, so that was fine. Then 10th grade was pre-algebra, so they actually let us use our textbooks and a calculator, so I was okay. But Algebra 1, I couldn't do it unless I had a teacher come home to do the work with me, like a homeschool thing. And then we had to fight for someone to sit in class with me for another half of the year to help me through the math. That was the only way I passed Algebra 1. And then senior year, they took it away. They took away the para that I had that was helping me, sitting with me and helping me through the math. We would do math from the day before first, and then we would do the day's math. And because of that para, I was able to pass Algebra 1, but Algebra 2 in 12th grade, they took him away from me and told me I couldn't have that. So, I didn't know what I was doing. I actually suspected that the teacher that I had that was coming home, because that was the only thing they would give me, a teacher that came home, I suspected that she had her own learning disability, in language-based learning disability, and she couldn't help me with the math. My junior year, I was told that I was not going to college. I became extremely depressed. There was a special ed math teacher who would humiliate everybody. And she basically told me, did I know I was going to go to the community college? Or, you're going to the community college, right? And it was just awful. It was awful. So I had to deal with depression. But I applied to college as I got in. It took me a lot longer to get through college than the average person because of my cerebral palsy, because of my dyscalculia. I had to fight for a math waiver. I had to fight to get this computer class waived because I couldn't pass it. I was diagnosed with dyscalculia by a hospital in 10th grade, and they told me what I needed to learn, but my high school would not help me, would not do what they needed to do. So it was absolutely awful and heartbreaking, but I got into college. It took me longer, but I graduated. I got the math waived. I got the computer class waived, and I graduated summa cum laude. So to the people who say, you have cerebral palsy, you're learning disabled, you can't do college, that's not true. If you have the supports you need, I'd say go for it. Try it. You don't know until you try. And fight for the accommodations that you need. Thanks, guys. Bye.